One of the things that I'm kind of curious about your view on, we used to have, we still do, these school bus size government satellites that you mentioned a moment ago. One might do signals intelligence, vacuuming up the electromagnetic spectrum. Another one might be doing electron optical, taking pictures, basically. Another would do synthetic aperture radar. And we always had a hard time knitting those all together. And now that we have ubiquitous civilian small satellites, as you discussed, how are we doing in knitting that information together to make 1+1 = 5 rather than 3? Are we going down the right road there?
This is the crazy irony of what's happened in intelligence. During the Cold War, information was hard to get. Those satellites, like you're saying, they cost a lot of money. There weren't very many of them. It could be so hard to get that image or to send that case officer to a really hard place like the Soviet Union to get information. Then, starting after 9/11, really, we were almost collecting too much information. We were collecting so much, like you say, signals intelligence, so information that was on the internet or being transmitted through cell phones. It became overwhelming. There was just too much to even, we were only getting a very, very small proportion of it was actually being analyzed. And now, as we go into this fourth intelligence revolution, what's interesting is that AI is now going to be able to unlock all of that intelligence, to connect the dots, to pull out patterns from all of that information, to do things no individual human analyst or intelligence officer could possibly do, and to do them at scale. And in many ways, that becomes what's now the new problem. Because, for example, you can no longer hide. In a world where maybe there were a lot of, say, video cameras taking pictures of streets, you could still hide because nobody was monitoring those cameras all the time. But now, actually, AI could and does monitor those cameras all the time. So you can imagine for someone like me, who is a case officer, that makes it really hard to do your job when you know you could be watched all the time. There is just no place where you may not be, where you aren't being watched. And that is the new problem in this fourth intelligence revolution.
And it's a real problem for human intelligence, as you just pointed out. Ubiquitous technical surveillance is a monstrous problem.
To put this in a kind of everyday, ordinary context, right? Number one, people don't realize how much information is being vacuumed up about them, whether it's from China or anybody else. And people are online so much, and the newer generations just willingly putting things out online. So if I'm an American citizen and we're moving into this realm, or really a citizen anywhere, how do I deal with it? What do I do to try and mitigate it? Why do I care about it? How do I deal with it? And what advice can you give people?
This is the reason I wrote the book. I wanted to help the intelligence community, of course, and show them how to modernize. But the real reason I wrote the book is I realized that it's the everyday American who is now being targeted by intelligence. They're being targeted by the Chinese, the Russians, and other intelligence agencies to collect their data and then also to try to influence them using information operations. For example, in the way that the Russians tried to influence the 2016 election, and the Chinese and the Russians continue to do. They've not stopped doing this. And so this, to me, is the scariest thing. In the Cold War, in every other time of our history, it's been presidents, it's been generals, it's been people like Sandy who have been targeted. Not your average everyday person, but now your average everyday person is targeted. And so I wanted to show that and give people a lens to understand that, and then show them a few things that you can do. And there are some things that you can do. And I'll give a couple right here. One, you could think like a case officer. And a case officer looks around at the world and is a little bit paranoid. They're just a little bit security conscious. We talk about what's called operational security, OPSEC. Doesn't mean you have to be afraid, but you're thinking to yourself, is somebody trying to target me? And I liken it to, we're all kind of, when we grow up, we're educated on how to deal with maybe a bad neighborhood. You go to a bad neighborhood, maybe you put your wallet in your front pocket or something. Because or if you go out at night in a bad neighborhood, you're just a little more careful. You're a little more mindful of what's going on. Well, the same thing should be true in other parts of your life, especially when you're online or maybe you're traveling abroad in certain countries. Just be a little more careful. Think about, hey, could somebody be targeting me? Just doing that solves half the problem. Another thing that you can do is think like an analyst. And an analyst triangulates information. They never take one single source at truth value. And so when a lot of us are online, maybe you see something on a newspaper, you see something in a report, and maybe it seems a little strange. Don't just believe that. Even if it's a newspaper that you've read for a long time, go check another source. And you know what? If Fox News, CNN, the South China Morning Sea Post, and, Newsmax all say the same thing, probably going to be true, right? You've now triangulated that information. It's not so hard to do. The third thing I would say is think like a science and technology officer. Remember Q from, James Bond? Well, there are real life people. Yeah, he's great. So there are real life people who do that. And what do those people do? Whenever there's a new piece of technology, they take a minute and say, hey, could this thing be used against me? Is there some way that somebody could collect my data on it? What are the risks in using this technology? Just take 1 second to just think about it. So you can, when you see a new social media app, wonder yourself, who owns this app? Is it just a company and they're based in California? Or is it maybe a company that's based in Beijing where we have no legal control over it, like TikTok? And they could use it for collecting my information and doing nefarious things. Take a minute, assess the risks, and then now you know the risks and you can kind of use it a little more safely. Maybe you're a little more protective of yourself or for your children. That's the other thing. You got to protect yourself and your family.